Hi, it's Congresswoman Jan Schakowsky. I'm back with my plans and pans. I am in my office in my home in Evanston, so if it looks like a new place, this is where I do a lot of my work now. I'm so glad to be with you today. This is the most difficult point that I have ever experienced in my history in the Congress. A lot of dissension, a lot of fighting going on, war going on. This is a very, very difficult time. But I do want to tell you that the Republicans, under the new leadership of Speaker Mike Johnson, last week introduced legislation that they say was in order to provide funding for Israel. But how did they say they were going to do it? We're going to take money, $14 billion, from the Internal Revenue Service and give that money to Israel. That means take money from the general fund, really, and spend it on Israel. But the meaning also of taking $14 billion from the Internal Revenue Service means that the wealthiest Americans are going to be able to benefit from a lack of scrutiny by the IRS. So, from all fronts, this is a very bad way of doing the funding. You know, I'm more than happy to have conversations about ways to help the state of Israel. There was nothing in there about Ukraine. There was nothing in there about humanitarian assistance for innocent people in Gaza right now. And I would say what it was a gotcha. We're going to try and put up a bill that forces Democrats to vote for it. But you know what? Most didn't. The vast majority said no. This is not the way to proceed forward with a very complex situation in Israel, in Gaza, in Ukraine, and we are not going to go along with this. And so that bill passed, however, because they do have the majority. And I know it's not going anywhere in the United States Senate. It is not supported by the president, who issued a veto announcement that if it were to pass, that he would veto it. So adding to the tragedies that happened both upon Israel, that are happening to innocent people around the world and also in Gaza, they are trying to play politics over people and over the necessary things that need to be done. In addition to dealing with these complex worldwide issues, we had a hearing in my subcommittee in Washington, and we were discussing and actually had a vote on legislation that I have as the ranking Democrat, along with my colleague, who is the Republican chairman of the subcommittee, Gus Bilirakis, on the Ticket Act. One of the things that's so frustrating to average Americans is that you get a ticket to a venue, to a concert, and you think when you go to pay for it that you know the price. And guess what? There are all these additional costs that are added at the very end. We call them surprise junk billing. And what this legislation would do is say that the price you see when you get online is the price you get. There cannot be any additional costs. And those costs can add up to 40% or even more of what you thought you were going to pay. Some people will have to just cut off the altogether and not go to that venue, and others who may have something so special that they want to go to end up paying way more than they thought. I had a situation where I was paying for all of my staff to go to the Washington, D.C. baseball game of the members of Congress, and it ended up being about 30% more than I had thought it was going to be. I was happy to do it anyway, but angry that that extra cost was added. So the Ticket Act would make sure what you see is what you get and not even a penny more. Other legislation that we considered, and actually there were over a dozen bills that we talked about. Some are in the consumer protection area, and there are still batteries that are on the market that can hurt children, particularly if they swallow them. We have to get rid of that. And we also are reauthorizing what we call the Pool Act, a bill that would make sure that children are safe from being swallowed up in some of the intake methods in pools. And it's been in place for quite a while, and now we're going to extend it and reauthorize that legislation. Many of these bills have passed in a bipartisan way. This is good. But at the same time, what we're seeing is that Republicans are voting in the appropriations bills to cut funding for organizations like the Consumer Product Safety Commission or from the Federal Trade Commission that would actually allow us to make possible the improvements for consumer protection. So it's contradictory. We're disappointed in that, but the fight goes on. One of the really wonderful things that happened in the district was a meeting with Avery Jenkins. She is 8 years old, and she has developed a product called Avery's Helpful Hair Kits. Here's what she realized. As a little girl of color, she has curly hair. And sometimes it's hard to comb. It can be painful to comb. Those of you who have curly hair know what I'm talking about. And what she's done is she is giving product to children in foster care in the Chicago area. And you may not know that in Cook County, 70% of the children that are in foster care are children of color. So this has been so well received. Kids are just loving these kits that Avery has done. And we did a little video together, and she is so articulate, third grade, and already coming up with ideas. And this is her idea on how to help people. Love it. This week begins the 2024 open enrollment period for the Affordable Care Act. Remember when we got it going, we called it Obamacare? This is something you need to find out more information about, and you can visit healthcare.gov to get that information. Here's the really good news. 80% of people who can now find coverage through the marketplace can find health insurance for $10 or less per month. Americans will save an average of $2,400 per year on their health care. And last year, 16 million Americans signed up for coverage. The deadline for enrollment is December 15th. So it's time to get going. That's not a long time away. And make sure that you check out if you can get these lower costs to provide health care. Well, that's some of the good news and some of the tougher news for the week. But I look forward to more information, keeping you updated on all the things that are happening in Congress and around the world that affect so many of us. And I'll see you next week. Thank you for watching my video. Make sure you subscribe to my YouTube channel and follow me on Instagram, Twitter, and Facebook, where my handle is @Jan Schakowsky.